Hey, ErikOnPaper here, and in case you hadn't figured it out, I'm Erik. So we're going to be doing another Spider-Man 4 villain, the Shocker, and this does get colored in the video, I just did it digitally. Shocker is going to be the first villain that we see in the Spider-Man 4 fan film, and actually he's going to appear within the opening minutes of the movie after the credits. So we really wanted to open the film with an impressive, dynamic opening, and we have a Shocker robbing a bank. One thing that's kind of fun about including Shocker in the Raimi universe is if you ever played the Spider-Man movie game adaptation that came out back in 2002 for like the Xbox, GameCube, and I believe PS2, Shocker was one of the first villains in that game that you could fight as well, and I have a lot of fond memories of that game and the Raimi universe, and I actually played the game before I was able to see the movie. So now in the inking portion of this, I'm using two diametrically opposite tools. I'm using a brush for the majority of the outline work, and especially the electricity because you want it to crackle and flow and have life to it. And I'm also using a quill for the finer details in his costuming and armor, and especially the rendering and texturing. Shocker has this very quilted insulation-like appearance, and it was very important to get that detail right. So a crow quill will give you a very fine line. I very much enjoy using them, however it is very time consuming, but it's worth it if you want to get it right. And out of curiosity, I did the right arm with a micron, to see if there's a difference, and there is. Even though I'm using similar lines, the micron is much thicker and way more dense. Also, I didn't like how the brush was looking on the right side of the electricity, so I just used micron for the crackling on the left. And then what I'm going to do is fill in this piece and where the inking overlaps with whiteout. Now the whiteout isn't 100% perfect and will leave kind of like a ghosted image of the ink, but once you scan your art in and play with the contrast, that problem is taken care of. And now back to talking about Shocker in the movie. One of the most important things to us is that we are not treating this like a fan film. We are treating this like Spider-Man 4, the movie we've officially been commissioned to make it. So in all our planning and all our detailing, we are putting a ton of effort into making these action scenes like you would see in an A-grade picture. So with the Shocker's opening battle, it is going to be very heavily visual effects influenced. I mean, with the Shocker's rays, for example, coming out of his gauntlets, they're going to be very flashy and dynamic, and I think that this will be a really great taste for what the audience can expect and the level of action of the movie. And speaking of light rays and things like that, what I'm doing here in the drawing is making sure that the energy that the Shocker is emitting is being accurately reflected on the body and taking some liberties. I did the inking so that most of the heavy detailing is facing away from the light as opposed to the light. Like his light is so intense it's removing any detail. In my Prowler video I said how the Prowler will be our first taste of hand-to-hand combat in the movie, and I'm really excited to do that. Well, the Shocker is going to be the taste of our visual effects in the movie, and VFX Valor is working incredibly hard on creating photorealistic environments. I see tests that Bryn sends me all the time, and they look absolutely amazing. And one of the things, one of the earliest tests I got was a physics destruction test of the bank that Spidey and Shocker are fighting in, and I am really impressed with what I see. It doesn't look like an indie movie or a fan film. There are things where I said to Bryn, did you take a deleted scene from the Spider-Man movies and just cut that in there? And he said, no, I didn't. This is from VFX Valor, so hats off to you, VFX Valor. I'm going to be working you to death. Now you're going to notice a funny thing here as I do the flatting details. I do the blue highlights first on screen mode, and then I just picked a lighter yellow to render more of the metal elements. And if you'll notice on his left shoulder, I did a bad job with the flatting, if I'm just to be perfectly honest. There's this giant square where there shouldn't been, and I do a workaround for that. Normally you do a better job with the flatting, but just in case you spot it before I get to it, I'm letting you know that I was aware of that. So now when I'm rendering these gauntlets, I have to keep in mind that a lot of the detailing is going to be gone, but when you're rendering textures in coloring either digitally or by hand, you have to really think of how the light's going to play off them and influence them. Like his insulation will be illuminated, but it's not shiny or metallic. So that's why we're going in with the helmet on these gauntlets and adding an additional sheen to give it more of the, obviously, metal feeling. The shocker suit for the movie is almost done. We are 3D printing the gauntlets and making them as comics accurate as can be. The funny thing is, I was initially excited when they said Shocker was going to be in the Spider-Man Homecoming movie, but yes, he was. I was just disappointed, especially when there was on-set photography of him not wearing his mask, or looking more like the character. And if anything, that's one thing I'm really excited about, is I think that our movie is going to be the first one to really put the Shocker on film, because I have always thought he has a great look and a great design. And yeah, that's me fixing the problem I mentioned earlier. What I just did was go into the style layer where I do my rendering, seeing me struggle with it a bit, but then just matched the color and made that an additional background highlight so it all blends in. And when rendering electricity, I like to use, or other effects like fire, dust, etc. What I like to do is go into doing color holds on my inked lines, which is why I didn't bother being so precise with my pen or brushwork. And I just create a separate layer, fill in the color over the black line. And then what I do is I start painting with using alpha masks, eliminating parts of the image that I don't obviously want to have the blue line color hold, and keeping in in the white area the parts that I do want to have the color hold. And already it's looking better. I just go into the glow effects and play with that to get the desired result, and really this is to taste. And one additional step that I do, also save your work frequently, that should go without saying, but I had an instructor in college who would sometimes turn off the power to the classroom at random intervals just to make sure we were saving our work. It became a compulsive habit of mine. Anyway, so what I'm doing now is just going in and in the line art layer, using another alpha mask, taking out the black lines so it looks like pure energy just flowing through the image. And I'm realizing this has a very 80s metal band look, which is also definitely something I'm into. Now for the final touch, I create a black solid layer over everything for a special effect. And putting it on the screen mode, I go in there choosing the color I want, which is kind of an orange glow for Shocker's eyes, to give it a final look. Well, thank you for watching. And now I see a lot of your comments where people are concerned that there are too many villains in the Spider-Man 4 movie, and I get it. I understand. But the way the script is structured, they're not all trying to be the A-plot, and that was the problem with like Spider-Man 3 or The Amazing Spider-Man 2, is that they were all at the same level. Characters like the Rhino, Shocker, Stiltman has a cameo, and Prowler and a couple others. They are going to be smaller cameo appearances, like extended cameos. They're each going to get cool action scenes. So I'm going to keep doing the Spider-Man 4 art and giving away bits of the movie. Let me know if there's any characters you want to see. I love the dialogue that I'm having in the comments answering questions, so keep that up. And if you haven't yet, please consider hitting like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and keep telling your stories.